Hello everyone. I just want to take some time today to explain outside process items to the best of my knowledge by using them in quote module, routers, work orders, and purchase orders. So for this session, I'm going to just take black anodize, and then it's already set to item type as outside process, which is a key. So you can call anything here, but it needs to be set up as outside process. It could be laser if you're sending something out for getting holes done, or like all the tubes that we work with custom laser on. So the part number is more like for information, and the type, based on this item type, there is some functionality that's built into outside process item type which is not available with other options, other item types. So just to give you a quick overview of what that is, when you take hardware and supplies, the cost or the price of these items come from the item master itself, from the prices tab, or material the same way, and standard the same way. But for outside process, the cost of the process of black anodize or black oxide or anything like that comes from the router. So that's the key difference. So just to give you an idea, black anodized outside process, if you go to the prices tab, it's blank. I mean, you can have some numbers here as a starting point. So when you go and build your quote or a router, you know you got to start somewhere. It's like you can have a setup charge as a minimum charge and a fixed price. All these things, they can be carried over to the quote module, and then you can build based on the RFQs you get from your suppliers. And so let's start there. I'm going to just take a, an old quote that we have been working with in the previous videos. I just added these two steps: outside process operation and black anodize as the bill of material item, which is assigned to the outside process operation or sequence. So let me open this up. I just put some random numbers in so we can talk about them and then see how it affects the cost or the price of the item. So here, let's say this Gleason part needs to go out for black anodizing, and we asked our supplier general plating, and they gave us these costs of by piece prices or the quantity breakdowns. So we will take that information and we simply add that information here. And if, let's suppose, if they told us, okay, this is your piece price, but there is also a setup charge, or there is also a one-time fee. So if there is a one-time fee, we can add it here, so we can account for it when we are and pass it on to the customer. But if there is a repeated setup cost, this is not the place for it, because this, the way it is shown here, it may be misleading. And I thought that, so I just want to make sure if somebody else is thinking that, okay, I'll put the setup charge here and then it will carry over to the router and then to the purchase orders and eventually to the supplier, and it's not the case. So I just want to give you guys what I saw there. So this charge is on top of whatever you have to pay your supplier. So let's say the setup charge is $5, that on top of the piece prices, if the general plating guy told us that, okay, you got to pay me $5 as a handling fee every time I handle your parts. So that $5 need to be to be distributed in the price. So one piece price is 55, and then because it's one piece, the handling fee or the setup cost, whatever you call it, and it's going to be $5. So we should put $60 here, not 55. And then when it comes to 5-piece price, because it's $5, so one piece is an extra dollar on every piece, so this would be $26. So that's the only way you can enter the information that can be used when purchasing goes to create a PO from the router or the quote. And whatever you do here is just, let's say you are handling it, you are using your time and effort internally to get this job ready and palletize it or prep it, and you want to charge the customer for it. This is the place for that. And the minimum charge, this will come in handy when there is a minimum charge from the supplier's end. So one piece is $55, but they want us to buy at least two, or if you only want one, they want us to pay $80. So we want to make sure we pass that cost on to the customer if they choose to buy one piece. So that's the reason for this part. And on top of it, shipping charge, let's say we have to pay it to ship these parts to the outside process place or to the customer, and it costs us $50 or whatever that is. So this is the place for that, and this will not be carried over to the supplier side directly. So only thing that when Scott creates a PO, it will show up is based the prices that you see here in this table. That's all. So, and of course the minimum charge. If Scott creates a PO for one piece, it's going to say that, hey, one piece is at $55, but we need to pay our supplier General Plating $80. So this minimum charge and this price breakdown by quantity are the only two pieces of information that are going to be carried over to other modules. So, and minimum piece price, this one is only relevant to the quote module. So what it does is, if you can see here, the outside process cost is, no matter what the price breakdown is, it's going to be $60 or more. So for one piece, the way it works is, okay, one piece cost is 55, but you have to pass on, you have to pay $80 if you choose to create a PO to your supplier for one piece. So that $80 plus there is a setup charge that you are choosing to pass on to your customer for whatever handling reasons. So that total, so 80 plus 25, that will be $105 for one piece. And now the shipping charge is a charge that gets tagged on to everything, $50 on every line. That's your price that you are charging your customer. So, and now I'll go and explain the two pieces. So when it comes to two pieces, it's still going to be one piece price $55 times 2, it's $110, and now the $110 is more than 80, so this becomes irrelevant. So 110 plus 25, it's going to be 135 total, and divided by 2 will give us 67. So, and now I'm going to explain the 6-piece, that way you can see the difference of where this minimum piece price comes into play. So 6-piece price is, it's between 5 and 10, so we have to use the low one. So 5-piece price is 25, so 6 pieces is going to be 25 until the quantity here becomes 10, you can get to 1750. So 25 times 6 is $150, and then 150 plus $25, because 150 is greater than 80. So 150 plus 25 is 175. 175 divided by 6 is 29.166. So even though it's 29.166, there is a minimum that you will charge your customer for that part. So that's $60. So it's using that number because that's the minimum that you can use. You can't go lower than that. So just to summarize, the reason why I wanted to explain these things is some of the names look like they have a lot more power than they really do, and the setup charge, it has no other value other than a placeholder for any miscellaneous charge you want to pass on to your customer. And the shipping charge is the same thing. It's only can be passed on to the customer, and you can't use it anywhere else based on the quote. So these are the three things. The minimum piece price, I don't even know if we use anywhere, but this is the spot for it. If you choose to make sure that you won't go below certain number, but the minimum charge and this section right here are the most relevant sections you can pass on to the purchase order side. And now if you need certs based on the customer requirement, you can check this box. So what it does is this carries on onto the router module and eventually into the purchase order module. So let's say I do that, and I'm going to save this and make sure this is piece price and unit of measure set to each. So I'm going to save this, and now I'm going to go show you the router for the same part. And you can see here there's a setup charge of 25, and it seems like it's carrying over, but it doesn't really carry over when it's time to place a PO. So the $80 is still valid from the quote. It comes and the price breakdown here, and you can see I just checked the certs required in the quote module, and the router is not updated with that information because we have to do that. When you make a change to the quote, it doesn't automatically update the router. So you have to make sure that if you choose to do an update from a quote to a router or router to a quote, you need to make sure you go to that module and do the update. So let's say I like my quote and I want to make sure my router is updated based on the quote. So I'm going to click update in the router module, and then read the header. Usually that's where you can tell what you're doing. Update the router from a quote. So, and now when I click OK, I double click on it, you can see that checkbox is checked because it took everything else stayed the same, but it took the certs required check from the quote module and put it on here. And now I'm going to show you, I'm going to create a work order just so 188256. I'm going to create a new work order 188250, and I'm going to create one. I just want to create a quantity of 1 and also create a quantity of 6, so you can see the difference in how the POs work. And now I'm going to just say save. sorry. Okay, I selected the item and then it picked the router, and now it should let us create a work order. And the work order has been created, and now let's say if I want to create a PO for that item, because if all the other process sequences are done and now it's time for us to send these parts out for black anodizing, and this is what we would do. Select this and click OK. It should create a PO. You can see that there is a PO for black anodize which is tied to that router and one piece, and it shows the price of $55, but the extended amount, the total amount that we owe our supplier is $80. So what it did is it took the information from the router, which came from the code of course, and said, okay, one piece is 55, I'm carrying it over, but I also see there's a minimum of 80, so I need to pay my supplier 80 bucks on this PO. So that's what we need to make sure happens. And the other problem is, you can see in our quote we have shipping charge, we have setup charge. These two things are really irrelevant. Even the minimum piece price is irrelevant. These are only specific to the coding module. Let's say if you have to call instant again to send these parts out, or that's a cost that you incur. But let's say if the supplier is charging us for shipping and we need to add a PO line separately, we have to do that on our own. There is no trigger for that. We can't really put it in the quote module and then or anywhere else to carry it over to the PO. So that's the reason why there are only two things that if you want to communicate to anybody else, if you're an estimator and you have controls like setup charge, minimum piece price and shipping charge, but only this minimum charge and this table information gets carried over to the other side, other module. So, and now I'm going to just create another work order for a quantity of 6 to show you the difference. So new 1882560, and I'm going to say a quantity of 6. Okay, create. So I created a work order with a quantity of 6, and now I'm going to create a PO just for that. So and when I create a PO, you can see that 6 pieces at $25, which is $150, and the total amount is also $150, in spite of the fact that there is a minimum piece price with that we are charging our customer for $60. So it does not care what you are charging your customer. It only uses this information when you're, because if you want to see these things differently, this is supplier information, what comes from the supplier and what goes to the supplier, and then this is also supplier information. This one section is supplier information, but everything else is between us and the customer. So the other thing I want to mention here is when it go to outside process, this purchase unit account, it's recommended that by MieTrak that it should be a VIP account, because we don't usually inventory plating or any other service, because if it's done to a part, it's already a work in progress, and it should be it should be also auto expensed out, because you can't really strip this black anodize from one part and then assign it to some other part or some other job. So I'm gonna let the finance guys look at this one, but overall the key thing is the part name and the item type will define whether the price comes from the item master tab or from the router itself. In outside process, it always comes from this section right here. So I'm going to end the video here, but if you have any questions or if you need me to explain more, just let me know. Thank you.